Tonight, the final debate before you vote. We are checking the facts, the promises, and the spin.
On le comprend, monsieur.
Monsieur Scheer, reste 30 secondes.
As six leaders take the stage, Rosie and At Issue break it down. Turkey pounds northern Syria, what it could mean for ISIS.
We swear at the snow, but it doesn't help anything.
A damp and damaged harvest, an anxious time for prairie farmers. And CBC News investigates how reliable is your credit score. We put companies to the test and the numbers just do not add up. This is The National. Right there at the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau, Quebec, just days after an English debate shook up the federal election campaign, six leaders are clashing again one final time tonight. It is 11 days until decision time for Canadians. Tonight's debate is in French. It's a final showcase for voters before advance polls open tomorrow. And Rosie, you're just outside where the debate is happening as we speak.
Yeah, they've been at it for about an hour now, Adrian, so we're halfway through. The stakes for the leaders are pretty clear here. Tonight is a big opportunity or risk, depending on how you look at it. They walked in knowing there's momentum up for grabs. Certainly, Monday's debate seems to have given the NDP's Jagmeet Singh a little bump. And in last week's French language debate, the consensus was largely that Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet fared very well, while Conservative leader Andrew Scheer did not. And that has been certainly reflected in Quebec polls ever since. So tonight matters, as it does every time these six take the stage. Katie Simpson has been covering the campaign from the beginning, of course. Katie, give us a sense of what we've seen so far tonight.
Oh, the bickering has eased up a bit. It's not as harsh and direct as it was in Monday's English debate, at least not off the bat. Though the two frontrunners, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau and Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, took aim at one another with familiar attacks over their climate plans, while the NDP's Jagmeet Singh, again, tried to be the voice of reason.
We need to stand up to conservatives like Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and the oil barons who are supporting them to continue to fight against climate change and build a better world.
Contrary to what Mr. Trudeau claims on this file, his plan is a failure. One of the first decisions he made as Prime Minister was to authorize 8 billion litres of wastewater to be spilled into our river.
The situation up here for viewers. This is Mr. Pipeline, and this is Mr. Pipeline 2, and Mr. Trudeau, I'm not so sure. But I'm Jagmeet Singh. I will never force a pipeline on Quebec. That is clear.
The format for tonight's debate allowed for more direct conversations, and after 30 minutes of environmental policy ideas being discussed, the tone shifted, became more sharp when it was time to talk about the economy.
A tax cut of $50,000 for multimillionaires. You have a universal tax cut which helps families who make $400,000 a year more than families who make $40,000 a year.
You lied when the Globe and Mail published the story. You lied when you said that Jody Wilson wrinkled.
Mr. Scheer.
And you are lying today.
What will be most important to watch in the back half of this debate, though, is whether the leaders start to gang up on Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet. His party's surge in support is a big worry for his competitors in Quebec.
Okay, Katie Simpson, just on the other side of the river in Ottawa tonight. Thanks, Katie. Salima Shivji has been watching the debate here with me at the museum. It's been certainly, the format is certainly allowing for more debate, as Katie said there, and it may be better clarity for voters as well. Let's talk about that Bloc momentum, because it has really taken off, particularly after the first French language debate. How are people on stage dealing with Monsieur Blanchet tonight?
Well, you can see it clearly, Rosie, and obviously that was Justin Trudeau, the Liberal leader's main goal was really to attack Bloc Québécois' Yves-François Blanchet, and you saw it really from the beginning. You actually saw Justin Trudeau holding his own in a lot of those exchanges. As you say, the format is much more clear, so he's not been fighting the clock as much as he did in the English debate. It really looks as though he's able to sort of counter his argument. You know, in particular, he got very fired up, I would say, in that exchange against Andrew Scheer and Maxime Bernier. But in terms of Yves-François Blanchet, you really see Justin Trudeau focusing on that. He made a point when talking about climate change that the Liberal Party is the only party that can really have a pan-Canadian framework to fight climate change, whereas the Bloc cannot do that. A direct attack against Yves-François Blanchet, saying, he can counter those conservative premiers like Doug Ford and Jason Kenney. That was one. He also specifically mentioned francophones in another answer, and that's another thing. Justin Trudeau wants to make the point to those Quebec voters and the francophone voters that it's his party that they should listen to and not Yves-François Blanchet. So clearly the strategy for him is focusing on Blanchet.
Only about 30 seconds, but how is everybody else doing? Because some people on the stage are hampered by language, obviously.
French is an issue. Andrew Scheer is going into this with a pretty disastrous, universally thought of as disastrous last week's performance. I would say his French is a little bit better. He's able to get a few barbs in a little bit more and clearer ideas, perhaps helped by that format as well. But he does have Maxime Bernier on the other side as well, so he has to divert his attention to his right politically and both right on the stage. Elizabeth May and Jagmeet Singh, a little bit difficulties with French as well, I have to say, although they have been able to get a couple of laughs in the crowd, a couple of good points in there. So they're trying to get their voice in there. A lot of people on the stage, though, not always easy.
Okay, Salima, we'll go back to watching, and you'll be back with us to break it down a little further. Salima Shivji. You will hear At Issue's take on the debate in about 15 minutes, particularly the stakes here and what that might mean for seat count in Quebec. But now back to you in Toronto, Adrian, with the rest of the day's news.
All right, Rosie. A wave of chaos is sweeping northern Syria tonight as Turkish forces push into the country. It's just days after Donald Trump moved U.S. troops, abandoning Kurdish fighters who helped defeat ISIS. Margaret Evans is in northern Iraq tonight.
The sights and sounds of the Syrian conflict cracking open yet again. Turkey's offensive on the Kurdish-controlled towns hugging Syria's northern border is now in its second day and setting in motion a wave of human flight. Aid agencies warn tens of thousands of people are trying to keep ahead of the fighting and on the move, some not fast enough. This was the scene at a hospital in Kamishli, an 11-year-old boy, apparently one of those killed in the offensive. Alarm bells are sounding in diplomatic corridors.
I don't believe in military solutions. I always strongly believed in political solutions.
But political solutions have been sadly lacking during 8 years of war in Syria, and today was no exception. The UN Security Council failed to agree on a motion at an emergency meeting called by European countries, including Germany.
We call upon Turkey to cease the unilateral military action, as we do not believe it will address Turkey's underlying security concerns.
The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan answered that with a defiant threat.
Ey Avrupa Birliği!
Hey, European Union, he's saying, pull yourself together. If you try to label this operation as an invasion, it's very simple. We will open the gates and send 3.6 million refugees your way. Turkey is calling its offensive Operation Peace Spring, saying it wants to set up a safe zone for Syrian refugees to return to. But Ankara fears a strong enclave along its southern flank run by Kurdish militias it links to Kurdish separatists inside Turkey. The same Kurdish militias that have helped defeat the Islamic State these past years, now left to defend themselves by themselves. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Erbil, northern Iraq.
So you heard Margaret there talk about ISIS. The fear that those fighters will now regroup is very real, in part because of how many there are and where they are, under the guard of Kurdish forces who may end up abandoning their posts to go fight against the Turkish offensive. The stretch Turkey is targeting looks like this: a 100-kilometer swath of northeastern Syria, some 30 kilometers deep. The Kurdish forces estimate they hold 12,000 ISIS fighters in facilities in northeastern Syria. 2 of those are within Turkey's target areas. Other camps aren't far away and also house tens of thousands of family members of ISIS fighters. And there are Canadians amongst those ISIS ranks: 8 men, 10 women, 22 children of ISIS fighters, and dozens more are still unaccounted for. Canada has been urged to take its citizens back and hasn't. Their fate now is really unclear. Now to another international conflict, one that speaks to China's clout in global commerce. When it comes to politics, companies seem to be buckling under pressure from Beijing to toe a certain line or just stay silent. Thomas Degla has the latest example.
For Apple, China isn't just a big buyer where the tech giant sells billions worth of iPhones, laptops, and gadgets. It's also where many of Apple's products are made, with Chinese labor central to its supply chain. So when Apple gets on Beijing's bad side, things get awkward, fast. Consider those months-long demonstrations, with activists in Hong Kong demanding greater freedom and democracy. Faced with aggressive tactics from police,
You have to use yours.
the demonstrators have taken to using an iPhone app with crowdsourced data showing where officers are stationed.
They would try to avoid that route. So it's more to secure themselves from police brutality.
Except the Chinese government sees the mapping app much differently, with the foreign ministry spokesman saying it's reasonable to oppose what he calls violent criminal acts rather than to support them. So Apple banned the software, claiming in a statement, the app has been used to target and ambush police, threaten public safety, and criminals have used it to victimize residents. Just the latest U.S. company to backtrack and avoid criticism of China. The NBA's Lakers and Nets still played in Shanghai amid controversy, but the league's players wouldn't talk about the conflict with Beijing.
Excuse me, we'll take the basketball questions only. It's a legitimate question. This is an event that's happened this week during the NBA.
Critics see it as more examples of bending to China's demands. Awkward, indeed. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
In this country, China's ban of Canadian pork and canola had already made it a challenging year for some farmers, but now there is added pressure from an unusually cold and soggy fall. And as Bonnie Allen tells us, it's having an impact beyond the bottom line.
And half of this is pushed down on the ground.
Stan Jeeves' wheat crop is buried under snow.
And look at how those ones that are in the snow, how black they are.
It's absorbed so much moisture from rain and snow that it has developed mildew. This wheat is no longer any good for human consumption. Jeeves will be lucky if he can even sell it as feed for cattle or pigs.
You know, you're standing around, what do? You walk around your yard and swear at the snow, but it doesn't help anything.
The ground is so saturated, he still has to harvest 3/4 of his crop.
This is the second snow we've endured, as well as probably about 8 inches of rain since the 1st of August. So we've got only 25% of our crop off, and all of it is tough or damp.
Across Saskatchewan, harvest is just over halfway done. Normally, it would be 82% finished at this point. Getting the crop off is one challenge, selling it is another.
The quality has just kept going down and down and down. It can definitely impact the bottom line relatively significantly this year.
That's just one strain. Farmers are calling the 24-hour stress line more frequently this year to get crisis counseling. It started in the spring when drought-like conditions delayed seeding and market uncertainty from trade disputes such as the one with China drove down prices. And now this. It's all been taking its toll on some farmers. Mental health groups are urging them to seek help.
They're not eating properly, they're out of their normal routine, they're having difficulty sleeping, they're more short-tempered.
I really feel for maybe the younger farmers that haven't had as many years, so haven't had the chance to build equity.
Stan Jeeves has been farming for 46 years, and he's had tough ones before, but he's never seen a harvest quite like this. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, near Wolseley, Saskatchewan.
More news still ahead on the National. CBC News investigates illegal and dangerous rooming houses. One Winnipeg councillor's mission to shut them down. Plus, a third straight day of commuter chaos on Ottawa's brand new LRT system. We will take you trackside.
And they said death threats forced them to close, but now the owners of a Syrian restaurant in Toronto say they've found a way to reopen. We've got the update, and we're back in 2 minutes.
This week, the National is investigating illegal rental units. Rooming houses fly under the regulatory radar, often in serious violation of safety codes. Over the past 6 years, across the country, hundreds of fires have claimed dozens of lives. Katie Nicholson looks at one Winnipeg councillor on a crusade to prevent tragedy from striking her city again.
Educate the residents, educate the students, educate the landlords.
Janice Lukes is on a mission, and it's a job to keep up with her.
I'm really concerned about the student safety, which is, I don't want anyone dying when I'm the counselor. So this is an interesting one.
Luke's South Winnipeg ward has a big problem with illegal rooming houses, something she's determined to change. Part of the problem, the University of Manitoba sits squarely in her community, and its burgeoning international student population is desperate for housing. Last time she knocked on this door, Luke says 7 students were jammed into this small bungalow.
That was the bathroom down there, the window. And there was one bathroom upstairs, but there were suites downstairs. There were 2 suites downstairs.
Since taking office, Luke's forced city departments to share fire and complaint data and formed a residents group to keep a watchful eye.
Do you think that this one here is still, there were those two, do you think those 2 are still rooming houses?
The one at the corner?
Yeah.
Well, there's somebody that lives in the bay. Yeah, I would say yes.
This one here is a rooming house.
It's like whack-a-mole. You shut it down, they go somewhere else, and another one pops up. I just want to take a peek here.
And when all else fails, Luke's is ready to rat out landlords who often want rent in cash.
We've been encouraging people, if they see a lot of rental activity going on, maybe just call the Canadian Revenue Agency. Let them deal with it. Hi, how are you? Are you a student? Yeah. Right on.
As she's been shutting down unsafe homes, Luke's has been approving new ones, 1,000 units in 4 years, like this building, affordable and specially designed for students.
Does he like cash or does he like check?
Like online payment.
Oh, online payment. Oh, that's easy. That's good. Look at it.
Despite everything she's done to put an end to unsafe housing, that game of whack-a-mole never seems to end. Just months ago, the city shut this rooming house down.
Yeah, there are like 5, there are 7 rooms.
7. Yeah. A bylaw inspector came out and couldn't get in, and then the fire inspector came out. The fire inspector came out, got in, and counted 15 mattresses. Here we are today, talking to a student, and there's 7 students living in there. So, like I said, it's a game of whack-a-mole. I went through it when the...
And with the stakes so high, this isn't a game she's going to walk away from until everyone is safe. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, let's get to Ian in our Vancouver National Newsroom, he is watching some developing stories for us now.
And Adrian, we're going to begin in New Brunswick, where the province's only private abortion clinic is set to close over a lack of government funding.
Providing free health care to all of the most marginalized patients who need abortions for 5 years.
Clinic 554 in Fredericton is a family practice that also specializes in transgender and LGBTQ care. The director blames the province for not funding out-of-hospital abortions, putting stress on the clinic, which doesn't turn away those who can't afford the procedure. If it closes, nearly 3,000 patients will be placed on the provincial wait list for a family doctor. In Ontario, officials in Hamilton have approved an independent review of the police response to violence at a pride parade. The review comes after several people were injured in June. A group of protesters bearing large anti-LGBTQ signs clashed with Pride supporters. Some say officers took too long to respond. Hamilton's Police Services Board voted to approve as much as $500,000 to hire lawyers to investigate. The Toronto restaurant, which was the target of death threats and hate messages, says it will reopen its doors after it temporarily shut down.
Aftermath and public reaction to our decision was beyond what we imagined.
The threat stemmed from the owner's son participating in a protest at a Maxime Bernier rally. The family says they've received thousands of messages of support over the past 2 days, and another restaurant owner has stepped up to help with running things. A guilty verdict handed down today in the shooting death of a BC police officer.
We know that John's murder should never walk these streets again, so that does give us some comfort.
Constable John Davidson was gunned down in a Metro Vancouver parking lot nearly 2 years ago. He was responding to reports of a stolen car when he was ambushed and shot from behind. Oscar Arfman was found guilty of first-degree murder today. His lawyer says his client has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and the judge has approved a motion to determine whether Arfman can be found criminally responsible. The president of Ukraine is speaking out today about whether he was blackmailed by the U.S., and that's one of the international stories we'll have for you in 20 minutes.
And next on The National, back to the nation's capital and neighboring Gatineau, where the party leaders once again squared off tonight. And perfect timing, it is Thursday, so Rosie and At Issue are here to break it all down for you.
We are back here at the Museum of History in Gatineau for the second debate of the week, this time the French language debate for all 6 federal leaders, and we've gathered At Issue back. We are taping this an hour before the debate starts, so we'll put that on the table, but we'll set the stakes for how this debate will play out over the course of the evening. Chantal Hébert joins us in Montreal. Andrew Coyne is in Toronto tonight. Now Thea Raj is here in Gatineau with me as well. Good to see you all. So, Chantal, I'm going to start with you. We've had a French debate before, but not with all the players. How might this debate change the election, or could it?
Ooh, I'm not sure that it could change the election. I have to say that some of the trends in Quebec, i.e. the Bloc Québécois going up and the Conservatives going down, and the NDP having a hard time keeping its place in the province, that increasingly feels pretty baked in. And on that basis, if you taught Andrew Scheer with the disadvantage of not speaking his first language, had a tall order at the first debate in French on TVA, which he lost conclusively. It's even worse tonight because the Bloc Québécois is totally eating away and has been eating away at Conservative support in the province, bringing them below 20%. And so whether Mr. Scheer can fight back against that, how the dynamics is going to play out with Justin Trudeau, who also has to worry about the Bloc Québécois rise, and how the others will find a place in that kind of battle is going to be interesting to watch.
I think it's fair to say, Althea, that the Bloc is the target of tonight. Justin Trudeau it will not necessarily be, that everyone will be going after Mr. Blanchet.
Well, they have a lot of gains to make by going after Mr. Blanchet. I mean, Chantal kind of referenced it, but there was a Leger poll on Wednesday that showed that the Bloc is at 29% and the Liberals are at 31%. And Andrew Scheer, who was like neck and neck with the Bloc just a few weeks ago, is down at 16%. And so, yeah, there are more gains to be made, I think, by going after potential Bloc switch voters than Liberal voters. But when you look back at 2015, you know, the Liberals squeaked in on a lot of four-way races. So it's really too early to call the way things, I think, could fall on election night. But you know, this is the first chance that Elizabeth May and Maxime Bernier have to present themselves to Quebecers. It's possibly Maxime Bernier's last chance to make an impression on voters. I mean, that could be the end of the People's Party, right, on election night. So there were big stakes for both of them there, too, as well.
What do you think, Andrew, of what we've seen from the Bloc? Because, I mean, I think we've talked about it a little bit, but maybe not enough in the rest of Canada about this resurgence and how that might unfold here tonight.
Well, it means that, pardon me, it means that both the Liberals and the Tories, but particularly the Liberals, have to fight a defensive battle here. The Bloc has eaten into their lead. I think both parties at one point or another this year hope to make gains in Quebec in this election. I think they've both seen those dreams crumble in the face of the Bloc surge. So the main thing is to prevent this from breaking out further, to keep it capped at where it is, and I think that's the only thing they can really hope to achieve in this. Both the Liberals, both Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer, I think, are looking at their hopes and dreams in this election crumbling away. Scheer is not going to, on present trends, not going to form the government, and it's not looking at this point like Trudeau can get a majority, and in part that's because they've not either of them been able to make gains in Quebec. So I think at this point it's a defensive action to prevent further losses.
To pick up on that, it's actually probably easier for Trudeau to build on what has been happening to the Bloc, both here and outside Quebec, than for Andrew Scheer, and for a very simple reason. At some point, the notion that a sovereigntist party is on the rise versus federalist parties is going to come back to the fore in the mind of a number of Quebec voters who are going to say, wait a minute, we're federalists and this may not be good. And if they're looking at the party most likely to keep the Bloc down, they would naturally, that's the pattern, turn to the Liberals. But outside Quebec, the problem Mr. Scheer has is that as people wonder whether he could form a minority government, they're going to be increasingly told a minority government propped up by the Bloc Québécois. Because it's clear that neither the Green nor the NDP plan to help Mr. Scheer if he's in a minority. And a lot of voters outside Quebec are going to say that's not a really palatable prospect to have a fragile conservative government at the beck and call of the Bloc Québécois. Think of people in Alberta who are going to vote Conservative and who are thinking we're going to be having a government backed by the most anti-pipeline of all parties.
Yeah. And likewise, Conservatives will be saying to centrist voters, if it's a Liberal minority, it'll be propped up by the NDP and or the Greens. And for some centrist voters, that'll be unpalatable. So we're going to hear a lot of strategic voting messages in the last days of the campaign.
I think we're already seeing that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're already seeing that. You see, like Liberal advisors, for example, on social media today, making that very suggestion that Chantal was talking about, that if Andrew Scheer has a minority, that the Bloc will prop him up in the same way that the Bloc propped up Stephen Harper back in 2006. And so that is a message that the Liberals obviously think resonates with NDP and Green switchers that might be tempted to vote for the party that they would rather have rather than vote strategically for the Liberals.
Well, should we expect, and I think we should, so I'll get you guys to weigh in, but Justin Trudeau seemed to be testing a line earlier this week, a couple days ago, about how if you wanted a government that is really going to fight climate change, you better not vote for the Bloc, because then you're going to end up with the Conservatives who don't have much of a plan, it is what he might say, and I wonder if he's going to use that line tonight, and whether that, Chantal, would be enough to sway Quebecers, whether that's a big enough issue for them.
It is a big enough issue, but you know, the Bloc's tires have not been kicked very hard over the course of this campaign. And I think most Bloc supporters are assuming that the Bloc Québécois would not back a Conservative government's environmental agenda. I'm not sure that that's right, but I think it would take more than a six-way debate over 2 hours for anyone, including Mr. Trudeau, to convince them otherwise tonight.
If the Conservatives are anywhere near to power, you will find unprecedented flexibility in their willingness to take policy stands that you would never have expected from them.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the electorate is still so undecided. There's a huge portion of people who are not decided, and the people who say that they're leaning towards one party are still telling pollsters that they're willing to switch. And so I think that we don't really have a clear idea of what's going to happen on election night right now. We just have an indication of where kind of like the mood is and where it might switch. And today, it's basically the last opportunities for the parties to present to Quebec voters and the rest of Canada who's tuning in through translation. You know, how comfortable do I feel in my choice?
And if I can just make a totally unfounded prediction, or founded only on anecdotal evidence, the person who stands to win tonight may be the leader who doesn't spend the night attacking others and tries to keep a positive message. Because the one thing I've heard most over the past week from voters was how depressed, disgusted, choose any word you want, with the tone and tenor of the election campaign.
The other thing is that these things often have repercussions outside the province. I'll be interested to see Jagmeet Singh, for example. That shift, if it was that, after the English debate, where he firmed up his position somewhat on Bill 21, I think you could interpret as, A, the NDP has no hopes in Quebec. They're probably going to get wiped out. B, they're getting a bit of a lift outside Quebec from his performance in that debate. And I wonder if that was what he was basically signaling was we're no longer really investing too heavily in saving a lost cause in Quebec, but we've got some hopes outside Quebec.
Then they climbed it down.
Has he? Sorry?
But then they climbed it down. As soon as he said, if it went to the Supreme Court, I'd look at it, obviously. And then they're like, no, he would not intervene. So,
yeah, well, but he wasn't even saying that before. You know, there's a lot of nuancing and calibrating and trying to keep things in the middle on these things, but it was a different position, a different statement, a different nuance.
It's hard to tell what's strategy and what's an error.
Or it's hard to tell what is Mr. Singh's real instinct and what his Quebec caucus want him to do.
That's a very good point.
Yes, and I was just going to say this morning, he also put out his 6 priorities that he would need in order to be government or support a government. And given that he said he's not supporting the Conservatives going forward, it did seem to me a change in strategy and an admission as well that he doesn't think he's probably going to form government. And I don't know how that plays tonight, but it seemed an odd moment to do that.
I think it builds on a little bit of what we heard from Elizabeth May in the English debate, where she looked at Justin Trudeau and she said, I hope to God that you don't get a majority government because you don't keep your promises. But she told Andrew Scheer, I don't think you're going to be prime minister. And he said, kind of like, just watch me. But she was trying to position her voters like, be comfortable voting Green because you're not going to get Andrew Scheer. And I think Mr. Singh is trying to say the same thing. You can still vote for us and you can get a Liberal government, but a Liberal government that will do the things that we want. So keep your vote in my camp. Try not, those two key parties need the voters not to move.
But for that to work,
last comment.
For that to work, those soft voters who mostly do not want a Conservative government have to see or have to feel that there's no risk, and the polls are not giving them that feeling at this point.
Okay, I got to leave it there. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you after the debate, if you don't mind. So go enjoy that. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. Look for it on iTunes and a major podcast app and on our website, cbcnews.ca. And while you're there, check out my other podcast, Party Lines, that I co-host with Elamin Abdul Mahmoud. A new episode dropped just today. See you later.
And next on The National, CBC News investigates David Common has the story of a special immigration program lauded for saving lives that some people may have taken advantage of. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to a story now that may concern a lot of Canadians. CBC News has learned of a federal investigation into a temporary immigration program designed to help a very specific group of people. But as David Common explains, not all who arrived seem to fit the criteria.
When Vo Van Dung landed in Toronto, his arrival was celebrated as his rescue, part of a group of marginalized people forgotten in the shadow of history. Following the Vietnam War, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese fled, fearing persecution. Many ended up with a new life in Canada, but others weren't so lucky. Landing in Thailand, stateless, unable to legally work, always in danger of arrest.
Welcome to Canada. Yeah.
Until a few years ago, after an appeal by US-based advocacy group Voice, Canada opened its door once again to more than 100 people. Then Immigration Minister Jason Kenney even there to greet them.
I welcome you to this beautiful country.
Thank you. A senior government official tells CBC the special program was for the most marginalized, those who were basically invisible. The formal memo specified Vietnamese applicants must have left Vietnam between 84 and 91 and be residing in Thailand. But our investigation suggests at least 5 people were not those who the government seemed to want to help, according to a senior official connected to the plan. Take once again the case of Vo Van Dung. For someone who should have been fearful of going back to Vietnam, it seems odd he was there running a tour business, not living on the margins. CBC was unable to reach him despite several attempts. Another arrival, Sabe King, ran a jewelry and crafts business. According to his business associate, he lived in Cambodia, though King denied that when we reached him, and claiming when he arrived that his life in Thailand had been very challenging.
It's very difficult and not enough food and not enough education.
We showed all this to Nguyen Tang, who was involved during negotiations on who the policy should help. When he looks at who ultimately came in, some of those we showed him were not who he expected.
None of those cases would be eligible under this temporary special program.
Many of these people claim they are stranded in Thailand and should have been on Canada's radar. But they allege in this Facebook video that advocacy group Voice put more privileged Vietnamese on the list.
Hello everyone. Hello. Xin chào, xin chào.
Voice founder Trin Hoy acknowledges his group helped create that list of names, but rejects doing anything wrong.
I did not personally go into each and everyone's life to check. For me, our job was to help and advocate for the refugees. Just because someone got resettled here doesn't mean that the person cannot go back to Vietnam and visit his homeland.
But a key official involved with the program refutes that, saying they could not go back for fear of persecution. If they could, I don't think we would have agreed to this policy, he said. And yet the government's own memo didn't spell that out, failing to specify applicants should never have left Thailand.
I was perplexed by the lack of control, internal control by the Canadian government over this special program.
I was actually very encouraged.
If there was a mistake back then, the government now is investigating. We spoke to the immigration minister before the election was called. I want to know what your government is doing to ensure that that special program was not abused.
I think it's important for us to continue to maintain the integrity of our immigration system. We take any allegation of fraud or anything that threatens the integrity of our refugee system or even the larger immigration system very, very seriously.
That was the CBC's David Common reporting. Now, there's one more thing we need to mention. Federal officials would not tell CBC News whether any specific individuals are under investigation, but the case has raised questions about Canada's screening procedures. More news just ahead on The National. Ian is back in 2 minutes with a look at the stories developing around the world tonight. But first, in case you missed it, for the first time in 40 years, female soccer fans in Iran were allowed inside the country's main stadium to watch a FIFA soccer match. Women were largely banned following the 1979 Islamic Revolution. They fought for change for years, protesting, dressing as men to watch, being detained. After a protester died last month, FIFA intervened.
But we need Iranian women as well to be able to attend the men's game. And we need to push for that.
Today, victory of sorts. A few thousand women were allowed to buy tickets for the World Cup qualifier against Cambodia, but they were segregated. Now the worry, it was a one-time event. I hope it will be repeated, one fan says, because women need to come to the stadium for happiness and to support their team.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast, Front Burner, we'll talk about Turkey's military offensive in Syria and Russia's growing power there, with Chris Brown, the CBC's Moscow correspondent, who is recently on the ground in Syria. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the National Newsroom in Vancouver. 2 associates of Donald Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, have been arrested on campaign finance violations.
I don't know those gentlemen. Now, it's possible I have a picture with them because I have a picture with everybody.
The pair was arrested last night trying to board an international flight with one-way tickets. They now face 4 criminal counts in connection with a $325,000 donation to Trump's re-election campaign. They've been subpoenaed to testify before several House committees involved in the impeachment inquiry. The president of Ukraine was on the offensive today, denying any suggestion of blackmail during his July phone call that sparked the U.S. impeachment inquiry.
USA didn't give me, the USA gave me nothing.
In a marathon set of interviews, the Ukrainian president said he only learned the U.S. military aid was blocked after the call. A U.S. whistleblower has alleged President Trump asked Ukraine to look into the son of his political rival, former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden. An additional 250,000 customers are without power tonight, bringing the total to more than 500,000 as major outages blanket California for a second straight day. The deliberate outage is a drastic attempt by the state's biggest energy provider to avoid the killer wildfires of recent years. The outages mainly affect Northern California, including portions of the San Francisco Bay Area, but there are some in Southern California as well. Numerous colleges and schools were closed because of the shutdowns. And a hectic scene at London City Airport today as so-called Extinction Rebellion protesters staged a sit-in. One even managed to climb on top of a British Airways plane.
So just for an update, I'm on top of a plane. There it is.
Yeah, he was on the fuselage as he streamed a live message online. This was the 4th day of planned protests by the group pushing for action on climate change. Police say more than 1,000 people have been arrested since protests began on Monday. Next on The National, that 3-digit number with big implications. It is easier than ever to check your credit score online, but can you trust the number you get? We investigate in 2 minutes.
You care about your vote because you care about your family, your community, your country. So get the information you need to make your best decision. Your election, our responsibility.
Car loans, mortgages, you name it, Canadians need credit. And companies are lining up to give you your credit score. But can you trust what you're getting? Marketplace put 4 of them to the test, and Asha Tomlinson has the results.
Back to Vancouver.
Business owner Raman Agarwal is taking a risk to learn the truth about credit scores.
If your credit score is bad, you may be declined for mortgage, you may be declined for any finances you want to do.
That 3-digit number can determine if you get financing and at what rate.
Credit score crew, how you doing?
So Marketplace asked Agarwal and 2 other Canadians to get their scores from 4 different websites: Credit Karma, Borrowell, Equifax, and TransUnion.
762.
762 is very good according to Credit Karma.
The scores they get online
637. Wow. What did I do?
are not the same.
Everybody reports different scores, and it doesn't make sense.
It's an interesting exercise.
So which scores would lenders use? Agarwal brings his numbers to mortgage broker Vince Gaetano.
I wouldn't rely on these. This is a client score. As a mortgage professional, I pull a Beacon score.
The Beacon score is used by most lenders in Canada, but it's kept secret from consumers unless you ask for it. And if you do, it could lower your score.
So why don't we come on in?
Agarwal wanted to take the risk.
Your Beacon score is a lot different than any of those 4 reports you showed me today.
Let me ask you, is it higher or lower?
It's extremely higher. Your credit score is 829.
Oh my God.
That's almost 200 points higher than his lowest number, given out by Canadian company Borrowell. We asked the CEO why.
So there are many different types of credit score in Canada, and they're calculated slightly differently. It is a complicated system, and we're the first to say that it's frustrating for consumers. We didn't build the system. We're trying to help add transparency to it and help consumers navigate it.
That's not good enough for Agarwal.
Whatever your score is, there should be one score.
All 4 companies say the scores they give consumers are used by lenders. But check out the fine print. It says these scores may not actually be used by your lender, and they're for educational use. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
And you can see more of Ash's investigation on Marketplace tomorrow night at 8:30 in Newfoundland on CBC Television. Next on The National, people in Ottawa just could not believe it. A 3rd day of transit nightmare on the city's new LRT system. We will take you there in our moment. So it's not clear whether this week's showdowns in Gatineau will change the political mood of Canadians, but one thing is for sure, across the river in Ottawa, a showdown with their own transit system has people seeing red. For the third day in a row, Ottawa LRT riders faced major delays right during the commuter crush, and their reaction to this trifecta of frustration is our moment.
I can't believe how bad this is. You know, no warning. You can't even get through there.
Not a fun time, especially 3 mornings in a row. Apparently, today's problem was a computer glitch. Malfunctioning train doors were the problem on Tuesday and Wednesday, all backing up trains for about half an hour each day, which can feel like an eternity during the morning rush.
You just got a sea of people there, and in a situation like that, people don't always use their best manners.
To be fair, the delays have all been on OC Transpo's new Confederation line, which just opened. And while riders try to be philosophical, that is not easy.
It's comical at this point. It's day 3. All I can do is laugh. This is kind of bullcrap.
Rough week for sure. Here is hoping it gets better.
You know, when I look, Adrian, at big infrastructure projects, I'm always often in awe of engineers. Maybe not so much this time. I guess the passengers may have been holding open doors the first 2 days, which may have been the problem. But this time, I think it was a straight-out computer failure, and that does not bode well.
Exactly. I fear, actually, Rosie is currently stuck on a train as we speak. If there's any comfort for people, apparently there are engineers ready to do work overnight and tow trucks at the ready for buses in the morning.
And look, it's not lost on us. We live in a country where we can spend 15 seconds, 30 seconds talking about a train that has delays. Lucky us, but it's got to be frustrating for commuters, that's for sure. That is the National for October the 10th. Good night.
Good night.